Welcome to another Indie Dev Showcase, highlighting the many indie games we play here on the channel. If you'd like to submit a game for a future video, please reach out. But otherwise, let's begin. We're starting things off with Kingdom of the Dead. This is a kind of noir retro shooter. When the dead have risen and demons are threatening our world, it's up to us, lots of guns, and a talking sword in order to save the day. Now the game is played entirely in this kind of like comic and noir style, which is very stylish but also like murder when it comes to encoding on a stream, which you're probably seeing right now. So this is definitely classic FPS gameplay. You'll move from area to area, killing anything that gets in your way. The mission structure allows you to play any level in any order, but you restart every map with your starting weapon. As you play, you'll have to complete additional objectives such as rescuing people or finding data, but the main point of this is going to be run, shoot, and stab your way to victory. Now, I do have several issues with this one. The first is that the gameplay is a bit on the repetitive side. Enemies have basic AI and they will either charge at you from any distance, or they will try and snipe you from a distance. There are some boss fights which are pretty interesting, but this is one of those games where pretty much every encounter is walk into a room, enemies teleport in and around you, kill them, move on to the next. While it's not a bad game by any stretch, it is again a bit on the basic side. Now, one UX issue that I do have about the game is the kind of light or the lighting when you shoot your gun. You've probably noticed several times that when you shoot an enemy, the screen will flash white for a second. And when you're using rapid fire guns, it can turn into just a migraine-inducing nightmare. And I hope that they have toned that down or adjusted that since we played the 1.0 build. If you're completely out of FPSs to play, Kingdom of the Dead could be a decent one to play through for a weekend, but if you're hoping for something that goes above and beyond in terms of its shooter gameplay, then this one may be a little too old school for you. We now turn to Hidden Deep. This is currently in early access, and what you see may not represent the current version of it. What we have is kind of a action exploration style game. Not so much like puzzle focus as say a Flashback or Out of This World, but kind of like a more grounded or I guess quote unquote realistic take on action adventure. We play as a team that has been sent in to uncover what happened to a missing research team that has been studying something mysterious underground. And of course, there's going to be a lot of monsters, traps, and more to deal with. So the hook of this game, no pun intended from what you just saw, is that it's kind of like a very grounded or very tool-heavy take on exploration. You'll have grappling tools, able to do drone surveys, blow up passages, and so on as you make your way through each of the game's handcrafted levels. The game also features procedurally generated content as well as local co-op as of this time. So what makes this game very challenging is that you are not durable in this one. Fall from too high of a distance, enemies quickly get you, and you are going to die. And you have a limited number of lives to play with for each stage. There's of course hunting down whatever mysterious thing has caused the researchers to disappear. And this is one of those games that it can be a little cumbersome to play. You're going to be using a lot of key buttons and hotkeys in order to make use of things. Now, since we play this one, or the footage you're seeing is taken from, I think, relatively early into its early access. There have been several updates, and they may have updated the UI as well. This is, again, going to be on the challenging side in terms of moving, and it is one of those games that if you don't properly run or you miss your jump, your guy dies and you're going to have to do something else. Or you just do the George of the Jungle maneuver as you saw right there. This is definitely not going to be a game for casual players or someone looking for an easy game to play. But if you're hoping for, I guess, like Alien meets Spelunky in a weird way, and looking for a game that has some challenge to it, then I would definitely check out Hidden Deep. We go from very dark to very bright with Mira's Brush. This is a 2D action platformer that is kind of like, I guess, Paint meets Kirby. You play as Mira here, who has been tasked to bring color back to the kingdom after it's been stolen by evil bad guys. And to do that, we are going to explore the world, find MacGuffins, and use our magic paintbrush. So the paintbrush itself allows you to steal color from anything that is nearby, and you can then take that color and apply it to another object or interactable. So some of the challenge of the game is figuring out what color you need to take and then use it where in order to then unlock another item, another power, so on and so forth. If an enemy is colored or an environmental hazard is colored, it will do damage to Mira. But if you absorb or take their color, then they can't do anything about it. And there's a lot of levels to this game, to say the least. Now, the platforming physics is a little bit janky. The problem is that it's one of those games, it's kind of like the original Mario, in that Mira will kind of go or gradually get to max speed, but it can be very awkward to make jumps from a standing position. This is one of those games that it's kind of hard to say if you're a hardcore platformer fan, this is the perfect game for you. As a lot of this is kind of, again, like that 2D platformer era of trying to get all the collectibles, solve all the puzzles, that kind of thing. If you don't mind the platforming physics, and you're looking for a very lengthy platformer, I would check this one out, but if you're hoping to play one that is a bit more in terms of precise, in terms of its platforming tech and its movement tech, this one may be a little too floaty for you to get into. But with that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have 3 more games for our showcase this week. If you're interested in my thoughts on design, then check out my game design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 Essential Games to Study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with more coming soon. We now go to Blood West, and please note the footage you're seeing is taken from early access and may not represent the current version of it. But this is, surprisingly, one of the many supernatural-based Western shooters we've had a chance to play this year. There's been a lot of cowboy-themed games released in 2022 for some strange reason. But what we have here is kind of like a stealth exploration style FPS. Kind of like a mix of, let's say, a thief meets a stalker, all set in the Wild West, or I should say the spooky Wild West. We have risen from the grave, because apparently something or someone has corrupted the land and is causing the dead to, well, not stay dead. And it's going to be up to us to solve this mystery by sword, gun, and other strange abilities. Now, some people have described this game as kind of like an immersive sim, like a Deus Ex, and so on, but I don't know if it would get that far. Levels are very wide. Each chapter of the game is one huge map, and you are free to explore it as much or as little as you want, looking for ammo, upgrades, more weapons, various like magical devices or artifacts you can equip, and so on. You do have some decisions as to how you solve certain quests. Do you give a important object back to someone, or do you keep it? But the main progression is that each area has several cursed artifacts. You need to find them all in their own respective areas, bring them back to the mysterious being who is keeping you alive, which will then eventually in turn lead you to whoever big bad is taking control of the area. Kill them, and you'll move on to the next. So this is definitely more like, I guess, like Cowboy Stalker, which honestly is a really great concept for a game. And I enjoyed this one quite a bit. Again, it is just, I guess, complicated or deep enough that you're not just running around killing and shooting everything. Stealth attacks are a very big deal. You're dealing with kind of 1800 style weapons, so there is no running around headshotting like in Doom. And it kind of feels not exactly as grounded as, say, Hunt Showdown, but more along those lines. And again, what you're seeing is taken from Chapter 1 of its early access. The game has recently released Chapter 2. And this is, again, one of those games that the only reason why I'm not playing it is I want to wait for it to come out and then do a whole run of it. There's not really a lot that I would say is bad about Blood West. Again, this is more on the kind of slight RPG action side of things. So if you did play and enjoy a game like Stalker, then this is definitely one for you to check out. If you're hoping for something that is either more RPG in nature or more hardcore action, then this game is probably not going to be for you, but there is certainly a lot of potential here for a full run when this is released. We now turn to Rogue Command. The footage that you're seeing for this one is taken from its demo and may not represent the current version. We also interviewed the developers of this one in 2022. Our concept is, what if we take a deck building roguelike and mix it with the RTS style of a 90s RTS, like a Command & Conquer, Warcraft, that kind of thing. Our mission is to defeat the AI while gathering and powering up our faction by finding cards and upgrades along our run. Each card can give you either a new building, a new research, or unlock a new unit that you can then take and build on subsequent maps. Units will have different stats, abilities, and it has that kind of deck building synergy going, where you can find upgrades for specific unit types, you can try and combine them, get better versions, etc., etc. Now, the challenge of this one, from what we played of the demo, is that the AI kind of follows in the Planetary Annihilation, Total Annihilation kind of strategy of just massively pumping out units, and your only way to really survive is to have your clump of units be bigger and stronger than their clump, and then gradually push out over the map to take them on. And I'm hoping with the actual release version that there'll be more ways of dealing with the AI, or stronger units or counters to just these massive unit globs or clumps of units coming to get you. But from what we played of it, there is certainly some potential here as kind of a roguelike RTS. And if that interests you, I would highly recommend checking out the demo and the game when it is released. For the last game of our episode, we turn to Time Rift, a puzzle shooter where you play as an employee of the possibly evil Vault Co., who has been tasked to kind of stress test their firewall system in order to learn about its vulnerabilities and, of course, probably uncover some very evil things going on. The puzzle shooter aspect comes in with how you move and shoot. The different color arrows that you see will change the orientation and facing of your ship. This will affect what direction you can shoot, which in turn affects which walls you can actually blast. You need to collect all the MacGuffins and get through the level before that neon firewall gets you. Now, you'll explore to collect various lore bits and collect the bonus kind of like diamond looking crystals in order to get 100%. You can also manipulate time if you need to, and the challenge of this game is that you never quite know immediately which walls you're going to need to shoot and which treasures or which switches you need to get in what order. I like this one. It is very much a case of what you see is what you get, but if you enjoy this kind of gameplay loop, then there's definitely a lot here for you. So, with that said, we're going to wrap up our indie showcase. I'd like to thank all the games. You'll find links to them all down below. Do the liking, subscribing, and commenting, and check out our Discord and Patreon. Once again, let me tackle your game for a future piece. Please reach out and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.